Alright, good morning everybody. Here we go. Hoot, page 223. Sorry, just had my chair cracked a little. Um, about midway through that page, starting at the Eberhards. The Eberhards owned a home computer which Roy was allowed to use for homework assignments and for playing video snowboard games. He was good at browsing the internet, so with no difficulty he was able to Google up plenty of information about the burrowing owl. For instance, the type found in Florida went by the Latin name of Athene cuniculata floridina and had darker feathers than the western variety. It was a shy little bird, and like other owls, was most active after dark. Nesting usually occurred between February and July, but fledglings had been observed in dens as late as October. Systematically, Roy scrolled down the search items one by one until he finally hit the jackpot. He printed out 2 single-spaced pages, zippered them into his book bag, and hopped on his bicycle. It was a quick ride to the Coconut Cove City Hall. Roy locked up his bike and followed the signs to the building and zoning department. Behind the counter stood a pale, freckle-faced man with pinched-looking shoulders. When the man failed to take notice of him, Roy boldly stepped forward and requested the file for Mother Paula's All-American Pancake House. The clerk seemed amused. "Do you have a legal description?" "Of what?" "The property." "Sure, it's at the corner of East Oriole and Woodbury." The clerk said, "That's not a legal description. It's barely even a proper address." "Sorry, it's all I've got." "Is this for a school project?" the clerk asked. "Well, why not?" mused Roy. "Yes," he said. He didn't see the harm in a tiny fib if it helped save the owls. The clerk told Roy to wait while he cross-checked the street location. He returned to the counter carrying a fat stack of files in his arms. "Now, which one of these did you want to see?" he asked with a slight smirk. Roy stared in bewilderment. He had no idea where to begin. "The one with all of the construction permits," he said. The clerk pawed through the stack. Roy had a gloomy feeling that the forms and documents were written in such technical terms that he wouldn't be able to understand them anyway. It would be like trying to read Portuguese. That file's not here." "Now that's fishy," the clerk said carefully, tidying the towel pile. "What do you mean?" Roy asked. "The folder with all the permits and inspection notices. It's been checked out, I guess." "By who?" "Well, I'll have to talk to my supervisor," the clerk said, "and she's already left for the day. The office closes at 4:30 and it's all ready. Let's see, 4:27. For emphasis, he tapped the face of his wristwatch. "Okay, well, I'll be back tomorrow," Roy said. "Well, maybe you should choose another topic for your project." The clerk's tone had an artificial politeness. Roy smiled coolly. "No thanks, mister. I don't give up that easy." From City Hall he rode his bike to a bait shop and, using a stash of leftover lunch money, bought a box of live crickets. 15 minutes later he was sneaking through the junkyard. Mullet Fingers wasn't holed up in the ice cream truck, though his rumpled sleeping bag was still there. Roy waited inside for a while, but without AC it was unbearably hot and sticky. Before long he was back on his bike, heading for the corner of East Oriole and Woodbury. The gate was padlocked. There was no sign of the grumpy bald foreman. Roy walked along the outside of the fence, scouting for Beatrice's stepbrother on any clever surprises he might have left for the Pancake House people. Roy wouldn't have noticed anything unusual had he not spooked one of the owls, which flared from its burrow and landed in the cab of the bulldozer. That's when Roy saw that the seat was missing. He immediately checked the other earth-moving machines and found the same thing. "So that's what the kid was up to the other night," Roy thought gleefully. "That's why he told me to bring a wrench." Roy walked back to the gate and opened the container of crickets and held it to the fence. One at a time the insects hopped out of the box, jumped through the chain-link holes, and landed on the ground. Roy was hopeful that the owls would find them once they came out of their dens for supper. He probably should have left when he heard the first honk, but he didn't. He knelt there patiently and waited until every last little cricket had vacated the box. By then the honking had swollen to a steady blare, and the blue pickup truck was screeching to a stop. Roy dropped the box and jumped on his bike, but it was too late. The truck had blocked his escape. The beet-faced bald guy vaulted from the cab and hoisted the bicycle by its seat. Roy pedaling furiously in suspension. His feet were a blur, but he wasn't going anywhere. "What's your name? What are you doing here?" the foreman hollered. "This is private property. Don't you know that? You want to go to jail, Junior?" Roy stopped pedaling and caught his breath. "I know what you're up to," the bald man snarled. "I know your sneaky game." Roy said, "Please, mister, let me go. I was only feeding the owls." The crimson drained from the foreman's cheeks. "What owls?" he said, not so loudly. "There ain't no owls here." "Oh, yes there are," Roy said. "I've seen them." The bald guy looked extremely nervous and agitated. He put his face close to Roy so that he could smell cooked onions on his breath. Cooked onions are good. I don't really want them on my breath, though. Listen to me, boy. You didn't see no owls, okay? What you saw was a wild chicken. Roy stifled a laugh. I'm so sure. That's right. See, we got these dwarf chickens. Mister, what I saw was an owl, and you know it, Roy said. And I know why you're so scared. The foreman let go of Roy's bicycle. I ain't scared, he said stonily, and you didn't see no owls. Now, you get out of here and don't come back unless you want to go to jail like the last kid I caught trespassing. Roy carefully guided his bicycle around the pickup truck, then took off at full speed. They was chickens, said the bald guy bellowed. The bald guy bellowed after him. Owls, Roy proclaimed triumphantly. Oh my gosh, got marbles in my mouth. Up, up, up the steep mountainside he went. That's what he was imagining anyway. That's what gave him the strength to push so hard. In reality, Roy was rolling along East Oriole Avenue, which was as flat as Mother Paula's pancake. He was very worried that the construction foreman would change his mind and chase after him. Any second, Roy expected to hear honking behind him, curses in the wind. The pickup truck would trail him so closely that he would feel the heat off its big V8 engine. So Roy didn't look back, and he didn't slow down. He pedaled as fast as he could, his arms taut, his legs burning. He wouldn't stop until he reached the crest of his imaginary Montana mountain and coasted downhill into the coolness of the valley. Chapter 18. Same scrawny brat I seen around here last week, Curly complained to Officer Delinko, only this time I caught the little bugger. Officer Delinko offered to report the incident, but Curly assured him that it wasn't necessary. He won't come back, I guarantee you. Not after he got a face full of me. It was nearly midnight at the construction site, and the two men stood next to the patrolman's car, chatting casually. Both of them privately believed that the real Mother Paula's vandal was still on the loose, but they would not share their suspicions with each other. Officer Delinko didn't tell Curly that the Matherson boy was too scared of alligators to be a vandal, because Officer Delinko didn't want the foreman to get all agitated again. And Curly didn't tell Officer Delinko about the bulldozer seats being stolen while the Matherson kid was in custody, because Curly didn't want Officer Delinko to put the information in a police report that some nosy newspaper reporter might find. Despite their secrets, both men were pleased not to be spending the night alone on the property. It was always good to have backup nearby. Hey, I meant to ask you, Officer Delinko said, what happened to those attack dogs you had watching the place? You mean the psycho mutts? Probably hightailed it all the way back to Berlin, said Curly. Listen, I'm fixing to turn in. Holler if you need anything. You bet, Officer Delinko said. And no naps tonight, right? Don't worry. Officer Delinko was glad it was dark so that the foreman couldn't see him blush. He'd never forgot the sickening sight of his precious Crown Victoria, its windows painted as black as tar. Officer Delinko still dreamed of catching the offender and bringing him to justice. After Curly retired to the air-conditioned comfort of the trailer, the patrolman began walking the property, following the line of his flashlight beam from one survey stake to the next. He intended to do this all night long if necessary, to make sure the stakes weren't tampered with. He packed 5 brimming thermos bottles of coffee in his car, so there would be absolutely no chance of running out. Guarding a vacant lot wasn't the most glamorous police work. Officer Delinko knew, but this was an extremely important assignment. The chief, the captain, the sergeant, they were all relying on him to keep the Pancake House property free of mischief. Officer Delinko understood that if he did the job well, his career at the Coconut Cove Public Safety Department would once again be on the fast track. He could easily see a gold detective's badge in his future. And that, my friends, is where we're going to stop. Page 231, beginning of that first paragraph on there. Have a great day.